Texas Democratic Party Chairman Kendall Scudder of Dallas, thank you so much, and welcome back to Eye on
Hey,
Politics.
thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. So, what a day on Monday. It was quite a shakeup for the Texas Democratic Party, at least in North Texas, where we saw Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She entered the U.S. Senate race. We saw former Dallas Congressman Colin Allred leave the Senate race to run for the 33rd Congressional District seat against Congresswoman Julie Johnson. Congressman Mark Vesey decided not to run for re-election to Congress, and he's running for Tarrant County Judge. And now you have an open seat in the Texas 30th District, where one of the candidates is Pastor Frederick Haynes of the Friendship West Baptist Church. So, how would you sum up what happened on Monday at the very last minute?
Well, primaries are the sign of a healthy party. If we didn't have a party that was competitive in Texas, you wouldn't have primaries up and down the ballot. And so, to me, I think that it is something that's probably going to end up being par for the course for the Democrats as we get more and more competitive in Texas. It's an embarrassment of riches. We just have a lot of really great talent that's lining up to serve their communities. And I'm really excited to see who the people of Texas choose to be our nominees.
But the fact that it happened at the last minute like that, how does that impact the party?
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of by design. Trump Supreme Court, the same Supreme Court that ruled he was above the law, and the same panel of partisan political hacks that allowed these illegal maps to move forward, they held out their rulings as long as they could in order to make things complicated and difficult for people to scramble at the last minute. Luckily, as Democrats, we all communicate with each other to the best of our ability and do our best to make sure that we're building a team that can win in November. And so, for the first time since 1974, Democrats are going to have a candidate in every single state and federal seat on the ballot. And so, even though Republicans were trying dirty tricks and they were trying to load the dices in the courts, Democrats still prevailed, and we have a team that is going to be hugely successful in the 2026 midterms.
How significant is that? And how were you able to do that?
I mean, I think it's very significant. I mean, what it means is that if you are a Republican in Texas, you don't get a free pass. You have to fight us for it. And I think that's really important because a lot of these politicians get way too comfortable in their seats. They think that they can just cruise without anybody holding them accountable for their actions. And they don't get to do that this year. So it means a lot, I think, it shows a lot of respect to the voters that they're going to be able to have a choice. The impact of it is going to mean that the Democrats have a player in every position on the field, fighting all across the state, leaving no stone unturned in 254 counties, where I think that can be hugely helpful for us in a statewide race. But it also means that people are going to be able to see that there's Democrats in their communities, even if they aren't in an urban center, even if they aren't in places that are traditionally thought to be Democratic strongholds. There are Democrats in their communities that, send their kids to your community schools. They own businesses on your downtown square. And we have a perspective of how working class people can take this state back from politicians and billionaires who've chosen to use this government as their own personal feeding trough.
Now, were you able to do that as a party because 2026 is viewed as a good year for Democrats coming up? And if that's the case, how do you build on that so that going forward with perhaps in a year that may not be viewed as Democrats, you'll still be able to have a full slate?
I mean, I do think that it being a good year was certainly helpful for us to accomplish that. But also, we're setting a different tone here with the Democrats in Texas. Okay. Personally, I've talked about this with you on the show before. I've never been a fan of a party that seems to lecture voters and try to explain to them why they're wrong. But instead, we should be a party that is unapologetically on the side of working class people. And we've tried to build a tone that we're all in a team together. There's no more fiefdoms, there's no more silos. We're moving in the same direction. And a lot of different types of people in our party with different philosophical persuasions, but we all have a common core belief. And that's that the little guy should get his seat at the table, that we should put the jam on the bottom shelf so the little people can reach it. And so I think that when we start to set this tone that we're all in a team together, moving in the same direction with one goal, winning elections and being able to deliver results for working class people, it resonates with people and they want to be a part of that team. So it's been incredibly helpful for us in recruiting candidates, and we're going to continue to move in that direction.
I want to go back to the Senate race for a minute. Obviously, you've got two major name candidates, Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico, the state representative from Austin, who has developed a following of his own. He's made some national headlines. He's certainly raised a lot of money at the very beginning. And I'm wondering, to have those two in the same race, is that going to how is that going to impact if it gets, if they start butting heads, when sometimes this happens in races, they get a little contentious, they get a little nasty. And so are you advising candidates to avoid that? And if it does become that, how does that impact your party coming out of the primary?
I have no doubt that the Democrats will be very passionate this primary, but it is always my advisement to treat each other with respect and to realize that ultimately we're on the same team. We may have different views of how to get there, and we may have different styles on what we want to see at the top of the ticket. That doesn't make the other guy or other gal bad. It just means they're different, and that's okay. And so Democrats in Texas aren't necessarily used to having really contested primaries. This is going to be a new thing for a lot of folks. And so there will certainly be a learning curve. But what I'll remind people on our end at the state party, we don't pick winners and losers. I don't believe that party officials should put their thumb on the scale in any way. This party belongs to the people of Texas, and you get to pick who our electeds are going to be. It would be disrespectful to our voters to not have a primary if you have people that want to run. I don't get to make those choices. You do. And so both Representative Tallarico and Congresswoman Crockett have signed up to serve the people of Texas. They would both do so admirably, and they both bring so much to the ticket. So we as a party just have to start having an open discussion about, what do we think would be best for the team? And they'll spend a lot of money over the next few months turning Democrats out to vote, which, in my opinion, is the best way you can spend money in Texas right now, a state that is 47th in the country in voter turnout. And so I think that this primary is going to be great for our party as long as everybody acts right.
So let me ask you, just going back again to the Senate race. Obviously, there's a lot of reaction, a lot of buzz nationally about Congresswoman Crockett getting into the U.S. Senate race. And I'm wondering, how concerned are you that not only if she becomes the nominee, how concerned are you that she will not only energize Democrats, but energize Republicans as well?
Democrats are always big fans of more people coming out to vote. We want to make voting as accessible to citizens who have a right to vote as much as we can. And so, really exciting that she has an opportunity to bring a lot of energy to the ticket. I think Representative Tallarico does too. In addition to there being some ideological discussions that I think will unfold and some stylistic discussions that I think that'll unfold, I think that we'll also continue to have discussions about, you know, as a party, what do the voters in this state want us to do, and what do they believe would be the path to success? And they're two very different people with very different approaches, and I have great admiration for both of them. I know them both. I consider both of them to be a good friend of mine, and so my role is to treat everyone fairly and to make sure that they get a fair shake and let the Democrats in Texas sort this one out. And then whenever y'all give me a nominee, we'll bear hug them and run to November, regardless of who we nominate. They will be running against a party that was enthusiastic about passing, for the first time in the history of this country, a tax rate where the people that are the richest in this country will pay a lower tax rate than the people at the bottom. They will be running against a group of Republicans that have shut down community hospitals, made life more unaffordable, have no solutions for your rising insurance costs, and frankly, a party in Texas that has made your property taxes skyrocket over the last 30 years. And so, regardless of who the Democrats in the state nominate for us, I think we have great prospects in November because the people of Texas are sick and tired of this Republican.
And I'm glad we're on web and not on air.
Oh, sorry.
But that's okay. So
Sometimes I act like I grew up in a barn because I did.
okay, so let me ask you one other question, and that is just on these congressional seats, because as you mentioned before, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the 2025 maps, and the Republicans obviously drew them with the goal of winning as many as 5 of new seats at the expense of Democrats. How do you see this shaking out, particularly the 3 seats in South Texas? You've got Henry Cuellar's, the 28th Congressional District, and President Trump just pardoned him. You've got the 34th Congressional District featuring incumbent Vicente Gonzalez, and also the 15th District where Republican Monica de la Cruz is also, going to be facing a lot of Democrats, I would imagine.
Well, let's be clear. They drew them for the purpose of racial gerrymandering, and that's just a fact. They got a letter from the Department of Justice that said that they needed to redraw them because of racial purposes, and they did so. So, this court ruling the way they did completely undermines the rule of law. They are a court that is subservient to Donald Trump, not to the law. And they have taken a once prestigious institution and completely buried any credibility that it has had. So let's make that very clear. Regardless, we are going to move forward with the 2025 maps because as Democrats, we adhere to court orders. That is where we are different than Republicans. And so we will move forward with these maps. I think the Republicans have overplayed their hands on the partisan side. They have drawn this on 2024 numbers and not realizing that if you look at it under 2018 numbers, which I think is a much more comparable year, the Democrats could pick up a seat in these maps. So we're going to throw down in every single one of these districts. If you think that Texas Democrats are just going to roll over, then you haven't been watching the news this year. We are a party that will take on whatever billionaire, whatever banker, whatever bootlicker we have to make sure the little guy gets his fair shake. And so even in these districts that they have tried to draw to be lopsided, to deny minorities representation in their government, we will be throwing down and fighting in every single one of them because the people of Texas deserve that. Texas Democrats do not work for Donald Trump. We work for the people of Texas.
And so how do you see these three districts shaping up in your opinion? I mean,
I think that
Cuellar, go ahead.
Well, I mean, looking at our nominees in those districts and the candidates that have filed, I think we have a really great roster there that's going to give Republicans a huge run for their money. Are the odds stacked against us? Of course they are. But if I'm in Las Vegas and I'm playing my money, I'm going to bet on the scrappy Texas Democrat with their backs against the wall every single time. And I think that these folks have very clear messages about what they're trying to deliver for their community. They're trying to deliver a community and a life that is more affordable, that's focused on working families, less focused on the billionaire class that is using your tax dollars and this government to their own personal gain. And whenever we make that as a very clear message, I think the people of South Texas are going to speak with a very loud, resounding voice, whether it is in Henry Cuellar's district, whether it's in Texas 15, or it's in Vicente Gonzalez's district, that the people of South Texas want Congress members that are focused on solutions for the problems they're facing, not subservience to Donald Trump.
We will leave it there. Kendall Scudder, chairman of the Texas Democratic Party. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
We appreciate it.